Meehan and Dr. Mason West.
Welcome into this episode of Bare Bones. As always, I am Mason West, and joining me today, co-host Danny Meehan. Danny, how you doing?
I'm good, Mace. How are you?
Not too shabby. This will be our final mock draft, at least in this format, before we do our live Bear War Room version next week. And we are 2 weeks away from the draft. Kind of crazy to think about that. Thank God this is almost over. But we are fortunate enough to be joined by the great Jacob Infante. Jacob, how you doing?
Hey Mason, I'm doing all right. It's definitely like you said, I'm excited for this draft to just come already. But it's gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be a really fun time. So I'm excited to be here.
And don't get me wrong, I love draft season. I like diving into the prospects, and the mocks are fun. But I don't know but for some reason this year it's growing a little long in the tooth. I don't know about you, Danny.
The class sucks, man. It's really what it comes down to. The premium positions are all garbage. Like, even at the top, like, we all know Cam Ward's going number one at this point. He would have been, like, at your most generous, or at least on my rankings, like, quarterback 5 or 6 coming into last year.
I would have said 4, probably.
It's just not a fun class to evaluate. Like the running backs are great, but it's not a premium position. It's like, unless you're looking at tight ends, running backs, or linebackers, there's just not a whole lot, or interior offensive linemen too, I guess, but there's just not a ton to get super excited about.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a sexy class, I guess. I mean, like you and I both love our running backs. I mean, that's why I really like this class for that reason. But like you're saying, you don't have top of the line receivers. There's definitely not even like a heavy middle group of receivers. Same thing with the edge. I mean, that's one of the reasons for issues for the Bears, right? Every edge that you can look at for them at 10 has a blemish that you're just not super excited about, besides Abdul Carter. And even he's got that stress reaction, which, it's healing at a normal rate. All that's good. But yeah, this draft lacks pop and panache.
I also think, and maybe Jacob has experienced this more given that he has a larger following than us, like, there's no pick that's going to make the fan base happy. Like, Tyler Warren, I've got so many red flag concerns about, but I've just come to the conclusion that he's going to be one of the 2 options that are there. And it's like, cool. Like, I would take Loveland over him personally, but it doesn't seem that he's like in the cards there. And even then, how many times does a top 10 tight end work out? Like, Brock Bowers set a record, but he's the exception, not the rule at highly drafted tight ends.
No, 100%. And I mean, I think it's definitely true that there's no consensus like, all right, this guy's going to be a fantastic pick. You take an offensive lineman, someone's going to be like, oh, well, he's not going to start year one. Ignoring the fact that, there's a potential that they could trade Braxton Jones on draft day, but no one wants to talk about that because it doesn't fit, doesn't fit the narrative. But, and you can go with Ashton Genty, say a running back. Everyone's going to be like, oh, well, why'd you take a running back number 10 overall? Again, Omarion Hampton, bit of a reach. Tyler Warren, do you really need a tight end that much? Yeah, 10's going to be a tricky spot to pick at, in my opinion, and especially because there's not a ton of, like, outside of Abdul Carter, not a ton of high-end defensive line value that could be available there, or at least good value there, I should say. So you're looking at either hoping one of the top 2 offensive linemen fall, hoping Genty falls, and if not, then the value for a top 10 pick in this class is nowhere near what it was in last class. So definitely, definitely going to be interesting to monitor.
Kind of to Jacob's point, like, even if, like, Membu is my ideal outcome, personally, if he were to fall to 10. I don't think he's going to, but a lot of people would swear by Will Campbell. Like, Will Campbell had all the hype in the world coming in. I know the arm length thing is a much disputed thing going on. He still has the second shortest wingspan, I believe, ever recorded, with his arms magically growing longer after the combine. Like, this isn't something that's new. And then he can get got on tape. I watched enough games. I watched the Landon Jackson, Arkansas tape where he dog walks him at least 3 or 4 reps backwards because he can't anchor. Like, and Landon Jackson isn't that good, isn't some sort of world beater prospect. Like, he's got blemishes too. He had an 11% pass rush win rate. He doesn't, or 11% pressure rate rather. He doesn't do that well. It's like every Mbembu, like, you have the can he even play the left side thing? There's a caveat with every player at 10. Mainly because, like I said at the top, this draft kind of sucks.
Well, on that positive note, let's do mock drafts.
Hooray.
That was what a lead in. Okay, so what I want to do before we get started here, I talked about this a little bit last week on Twitter. I want to do this more next year, but an HBCU spotlight. There's some good players that just don't get talked about enough, don't get a shot. Today's spotlight, Jesse Johnson III, cornerback out of Austin P. At Tennessee University's Pro Day, measuring at 5'11", 175 pounds, ran a 4.48 40 and a 4.08 shuttle. In 2024, had 4 interceptions, 5 takeaways total, 57 tackles, a touchdown, a fumble recovery, did not allow a 100-yard game that year, and also only 1 touchdown allowed. 3 full seasons at cornerback. He played inside as well, had 105-plus tackles over that time period, 16 pass breakups, 7 interceptions. He's actually a nephew of Antonio Cromartie and related to Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, both former NFL cornerbacks. Lengthy with coverage ability to play inside and outside, potential to contribute on special teams and sub packages right away. I think he's got some strong instincts in both man and zone schemes in terms of the games that I was able to look at. And he's considered a late round prospect with potential development to a solid NFL quarterback if given some time. But like I said, at least some special team contribution. So a little nod there to Jesse Johnson. Right. First,
have you watched him, Jacob, or no?
I think he did.
Yeah. So I've watched it. I've watched a little bit of him as well. He's a very talented player. Obviously, you speak to the hip fluidity, the instincts in coverage, the playmaking capabilities, the ball skills, the way he adjusts to the ball. I think if he's able to pack on some additional weight, some additional muscle, while keeping that athleticism, while keeping those being as explosive as he is, I think there's something to work with there. So I'm glad you shouted him out too, because Jesse Johnson's been a sleeper in this class, and I'm excited to see where he ends up.
Yeah, too true. I can agree with that more. So first up, in round 1, pick 10. Based off of how you introed this, I'm surprised this is where you went, to be honest. But I'm very glad you went this route because we have not talked about this player at all on Bare Bones, nor the counterpart that potentially, could replace him in this slot. And that's Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State.
Joy. So let me start off by saying I don't hate Tyler Warren, the prospect.
Sounds
I think Tyler Warren's I think he's a plenty good football player. I have a lot of questions that Bears Twitter doesn't seem to have, where it's like, if you look at our counterpart Bill Zimmerman, he's running the fan voted mock draft. He is running away and hiding to be the Bears pick at 70+%, I think is the vote, with who's available in his recorded options. But I have so many questions, and I have a lot of but with him. But let's start with the positives. He's 6'5", he's pushing 260. He moves adequately enough. He led the world at everything as a tight end last year, I think, aside from Harold Fannin. And the thing that stands out most for me, for my liking, is he's what I would term an all the smoke player. He wants all your problems. He doesn't really care who you are. He's up for the bar fight in an alley at any given moment. He is that sort of player, and it shows on field. I really enjoyed watching him, but then here comes the other part of it. 1 year of production. Top 10 picks. I don't care what program you play at, be it Penn State, Alabama, Georgia, et cetera, et cetera. It should not take you to being 22, 23 years old to finally break out because Theo Johnson was in your way. No disrespect to Theo Johnson, but you're a top 10 potential player in a pick or in a draft class. You should be taking his job from him. That's my little spiel there. That being said, he is new to the position. He was a quarterback throughout high school. He actually was a multi-sport athlete, baseball, forget what other sports, basketball as well, I believe. But just very well-rounded athlete, not one of these kids that all he did was play football. Other concerns I have is the manufactured touches, a lot of wildcat stuff, a lot of design screens. But overall, I do like the player, and I think Ben Johnson would do well to hide some of his deficiencies and get him the ball and let him do some of the things he does well. Other than that, like he's a good football player. Would I be upset with the pick? No, I just think the historic hit rate of tight ends taken that high isn't great. And I don't have him as my number one overall tight end, even though a lot of the draft community and the experts seemingly do.
So and to that tweet you alluded to that Bill Zimmerman has out there, one of the things I will say is, I mean, if you look at the options, it was Tyler Warren, Omarion Hampton, which most of the draft community currently has him in the teens and 20s, Josh Simmons, who's coming off an exploded knee, and Kelvin Banks, who I'm just not that high on. And I know he's starting to move up in the process, but I think you also have to keep in mind, like, he's got 60.8% of the vote right now is in Tyler Warren. Part of that is also who he's matched up against in this particular vote. Like, it's a little bit.
And I'll tell you right now, dead to your face, that if you're telling me if I'm Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, who would I take between even Hampton and Warren? I would take Hampton. I think he's a more ready-made, sure bet to help your quarterback out. That being said, the one caveat a lot of people seem to have with him is that he can't block. I think he's a willing blocker, and he's got the makeup to want to do it.
He's one of the better blockers in this draft. I don't know why people are saying that. This is not a Hampton conversation. This is a Tyler Warren conversation. So I want to ask.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about? Oh no, he's just got tiny arms.
Yeah, he tries. Like, Warren is a decent enough blocker, and he tries. It's not like he doesn't care about it. This isn't the whole like Travis Kelce thing where it's like, yeah, he's not there to block.
No, Warren just has smaller arms, so he's better against like DBs and stuff than he is right now, truly in line. And I do think Colson Loveland might be a better tight end than him. And so why didn't you take Loveland here then, if you like him more?
There's something in my brain that says realism. Like, I just don't think Loveland's going to be an option for them.
Jacob, who I know you've talked about this a bit, on the Twitterverse and all that. Who do you prefer between Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland?
I think it's really a matter of what you draft for. If you're drafting for high floor, or if you're drafting for high ceiling. So I think that Tyler Warren right now is the better football player. I think Tyler Warren has the higher ceiling or the higher floor, but I think Colston Loveland's a better athlete, and I think therefore he has the higher ceiling. So I have Warren as my tight end one, but it's close. And I think that, I mean, honestly, you could say Loveland is your tight end one, and I wouldn't blame you one bit. I think Warren's more physical and, certainly a better blocker. But at the same time, I think Loveland's pretty far ahead as far as his straight line speed in terms of his explosiveness coming out of his breaks. So that's really a matter of what you prefer. If you're willing to, swing for the fences, or rather just be like, all right, we feel pretty good. We feel stronger that this guy's going to be a good player. Let's just take him, as opposed to this guy could be great. Maybe he'll be average. I don't know. So I have Warren higher, but I do think that Loveland is the higher ceiling.
And the other benefit behind Warren is he wears a 40s number jersey.
His hair is sweet too.
He does have sweet locks.
I'm gonna cop out. I'm gonna be honest. It's similar to Jacob, but again, I'm gonna be a bigger baby. It's such a 1A, 1B for me. Like, I really could take either of them. I'd be good with them at pick 10, either one of them. Tyler Warren might be just my A slightly over the B, because I get slightly more excited about what he can, because I've seen the interesting stuff with him in terms of the Wildcat and some of the other things, and what Ben Johnson could specifically do with that. But that's just the unimaginative, like, I saw it and now I can think of what Ben Johnson can do with it. But like Jacob said, and what you were alluding to, Danny, Colston, I think ultimately may pan out to be better. It's just, even Warren might have a slightly higher floor. I don't know. It's so close for me. It's hard to say.
I'm also an ageist evaluator. I've never hidden that. He's old. He's going to be a 23-year-old rookie.
Tyler Warren, 22.92. I'm using the beast for some of these numbers versus Loveland 21.04.
That's almost 2 years younger. Yeah.
The maths.
The math do be mathin'.
Jacob is up next technically, but he traded and didn't use PFF, so it looked all funky. So if you're watching this on the video, you just don't see the trade. Can you talk through a little bit of what the trade might have been, Jacob?
So I'm gonna have to admit, boys, I'm calling in on my phone right now. I don't know if there's a way that I can pull it up.
No,
and
it was
see.
something like, hold on, if you give me a moment, I can kind of butcher this together. We're vamping, everything's good. So you moved down to 14 and got 45.
Yeah.
And I assume gave up just straight up 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I'm not
I was seeing if I
mistaken,
could pull it up if it was in our chat thread or something.
yeah. So I think if I remember correctly, that was the Colts moving up for Tyler Warren. And that was the offer I got. That was the offer I took. Is that a little steep? Maybe. It's at least as far as, the Colts giving up a second round pick to be able to secure their guy. That might be steep. But hey, it's on the simulator. It's what I was offered, and that's the direction that I went with it. So I'm of the belief there are 4 guys that would be great picks at number 10, and I think all of them will be gone before number 10. And that's both the tackles, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, Ashton Genty, and Mason Graham, not including Abdul Carter because there's no chance he falls. I don't think any of those 4 guys are going to be there at 10. And if that's the case, I'd much prefer to trade down, which is way easier said than done. I just got lucky that Tyler Warren was on the board at 10. Colts wanted him, and I didn't want to. I truthfully, I don't know. I don't want to take a tight end at 10. I was cool with Brock Bowers at 9 last year, and Brock Bowers to me is a significantly better prospect coming out than Tyler Warren.
Easily.
So by default, I'm gonna go one pick lower in the board, and I'm supposed to be happy with still a very talented player, but nowhere near the blue chip level that Brock Bowers was coming out.
Does it matter at all for you so Bowers, yes, at 9 would have been hunky-dory solid.
Yes.
But just in terms of the oomph and the pop of last year's draft, I mean, how many quarterbacks went early, the strength of the wide receivers, like just because of that and comparing that to where Bowers ultimately ended up going for someone like whether you like Loveland or whether you like Warren, does that enter your calculus at all that the strength at 10 or even at 14 where you trade it back to might be worth, and not even just specifically Warren, but someone that you would say last year you wouldn't have taken like with a 10 overall pick?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm looking at a good handful of guys in last year's class and being like, all right, even if they wouldn't be the number one even if some of these players in the 2024 draft wouldn't be the number 1 overall pick, I certainly think that they'd be drafted in the top 5, if that makes sense. So if you're looking at anything along the lines of, like a Neighbors or Alt or Odunze or Bowers, I think all those guys would be top 5 in this 2025 class. So I think the reason that you're seeing those guys there just speaks mostly to the weakness of the class. They're good players, not to hate on them, not to crap on them, whatever. It's just this is a significantly less. There are much fewer blue chip players, in my opinion. At least coming out as prospects, maybe they end up becoming fantastic. Who knows?
Right.
But as far as what they are entering the league, it's a weaker class for sure. So I think that there are going to be some guys who certainly, from a financial perspective, for sure, are going to be able to take advantage of that with higher draft capital than they usually would in most years.
All right, so this is my yearly what could happen and I don't want it to happen draft. So keep in mind that I don't dislike some of these players. There's a couple I just don't like. Let's be real. But there's other ones that in a vacuum I like, but potentially specifically for the Bears, there are some things going on that I just think don't create the best situation. Hence why I wouldn't want to take them here. So I actually did a trade as well. I traded with the Colts. How funny is that? I ended up getting their 3rd round pick at 80, and also a future 3rd round pick. Kind of like the opposite of Jacobs in a way, where the premium wasn't there. The Bears just wanted to get something out of it. The Colts were like, "Hey, we'll throw you this." One of the reasons I traded back here in this, I don't want this version. 2 things. One, the specific player I wanted to talk about with my pick. It would make no sense to take him at 10. Just gonna be honest. And then number 2, this is my. I didn't really, a 3rd round pick doesn't do much for me in this scenario in terms of moving back, potentially missing someone, and also in this scenario, actually Membu was available. 2 things, but with that one, I already talked about Membu in a previous mock, so I can't do that. But also, this is I don't want that version. So the Bears actively traded off of Membu, off of Tyler Warren potentially, etc., in order to garner a 3rd round pick and a future 3rd, which I would not be a fan of in that situation. Go take Membu. All right, Jacob is up now with his official first pick, round 1, pick 4. He took Mykel Williams, pass rusher out of Georgia.
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, with that pick, I think Mykel Williams is a prototypical Dennis Allen type edge rusher. I think he's someone where purely before you even turn on the tape, just looking at him, he has the length, he has the size, he has the hand size, he's tall, he's well built. And I think from a physical perspective, he certainly checks all the boxes that an edge rusher should have. He's powerful. He's pretty quick off the line of scrimmage. I mean, he's hardly a James Pierce type of 4-4 athlete rushing off the edge, but he's also a lot bigger and a lot stronger. I think he's a much better run defender than a lot of people give him credit for. I think he's, spatially aware. I think he's powerful at the point of attack, and he does a solid job of stacking and shedding blocks in order to, make plays against the run. So why I didn't take him at 10, well, one, I thought the value moving down was good, but also I think there are some limitations from a flexibility perspective, and there are some times where it looks like he's rushing and doesn't have like a super strong plan. If the first move goes wrong, I don't think he consistently can be like, all right, well, I can default to this move specifically, and then work off of that. So I think that there's still from a technical perspective a bit that Williams needs to work on, but I think he's a high ceiling for sure. I think that again, like I said, I think he's exactly what Dennis Allen likes in a defensive end, at least historically. Taking a look at most of the guys that the Saints had during his long stint there as their D coordinator. I know some people aren't going to like it because it's a raw defensive end. I think that Williams might not be the pure athlete that Shamar Stewart is, but he's definitely a better football player right now.
That's
At least,
yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, so that's something where I traded back. I like the value there. All the top guys that I mentioned earlier in the show are gone, so I'm like, all right, here's someone I think is going to factor into the rotation right away. High end starting upside, maybe not like all pro necessarily, but someone who's going to be a solid starter for quite some time if he develops properly, which I think that in this sort of defense, in this sort of rotation, you can work him into it. So that was my thinking with Williams at 14.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people too. Like, there was a period where Mykel was kind of the belle of the ball of Bears' number 10 pick option, and then he ran his 40, and people all of a sudden lost their minds and said, like, I don't want him anymore because it wasn't as fast as they thought. But I don't think that's his game. I think he's more of a power guy than a speed guy, and he's got a lot more run game upside than like even Abdul Carter does, because he actually defends the run and does it well because of his size, because of his strength. I mean, it's not about his first step. It's not about, and his 10-yard split was also not awful. It was just,
I was going to say his 10-yard split was like matched by only that of Nick Bosa, I believe was the report. It's his long speed is the problem.
Exactly.
And even then, how many times is a 270-pound defensive end going to be running 40 yards in a straight line?
If he is, it's
probably a bad time.
So it's just, and I agree. I mean, he's probably my guess is a 6 to 8 sack guy in the league, like probably like is what you were hoping for there.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's much better against the run though too. So he's a more complete defender, at least in my opinion. All right. So my first pick of no, God!
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
That's the only time I'm doing that. Don't worry. Like, I'm not doing that again.
Okay.
But I had to do it once.
There you go.
So I took Shamar Stewart, edge, out of Texas A&M. It's pretty straightforward. His measurables and athleticism, right? 6'5", 267 pounds with 34.5-inch arms, a perfect RES of 10. I mean, you'd make Dennis Allen and Ryan Poles drool, like if that's all you looked at. He just doesn't produce enough sacks. So I have a little chart here, threw together. If you're watching live, great. I'll try to read through. I'm not gonna read through all of this, but look at some of these top guys, right? Myles Garrett in college had 32.5 sacks, was a first round pick. Max Crosby had 20 sacks, still productive. He was a 4th-round pick. Nick Bosa, 17.5, first-round pick. Brian Burns, 24 sacks, was a first-round pick. The only person that's even kind of similar is Danielle Hunter, who had 4.5 sacks, but he was a 3rd-round pick. So Shamar being a first-round pick with 4.5 sacks, 1.5 sacks is the most he's had at any season, makes absolutely no sense to me. Some people are going to say the problem is he played out of position. Like, he often did line up over the tackle or inside over the B gap for I instead of as a true edge, which
60+% of his snaps were out on the outside shoulder of the tackle.
But he still had a good amount of snaps out there. And the ones that we saw, he still didn't produce. I mean, he often tries to kill I don't know if he knows how to play football. He just tries to kill the quarterback. He doesn't play the mesh point well. His tape where he hits the QB with no help and the running back gets 15-yard gains instead of actually playing disciplined football. He has no plan when he rushes at all. It makes no sense. He hasn't learned to weaponize his hands whatsoever and often bypasses protection with go-to moves. He gets pushed off his base and widened at the edge constantly. He also might just be straight up football blind. He wins at the line, but he doesn't adjust his rush lane, often running by the quarterback. Like, just adjust a little bit to where the quarterback is going. Like, yes, his blend of traits and explosiveness and untapped upside is like tantalizing, but I just don't want to be the team that has to find out what that upside potentially is when, again, I don't know that you know how to play football.
And I would just to kind of add on to everyone keeps citing the perfect 10 RAS, and there's a segment of people who tell me he's a good run defender. I've yet to see if he's a good run defender. And then there's the PFF analytical data for run stops. He is 203 of 204 qualified people in run stops. So that's tackles per 1 yard or less in the run game. He is not a good run defender. He is not a good pass rusher. The very idea of him is what people like, not the actual product of what he is. And if he wasn't like a football lifetime player, I'd feel a little bit better about him. But he's not new to football. This isn't a guy who picked it up as like a junior or senior in high school because he's just been better. Like, I think he started playing football at like 11 or 12 years old. Like, I will rail against, this is one of the worst like conversations I think I've been a part of, where it's like, I can't get to this place where other people are getting, because it flies in the face of everything. And the biggest thing on tape, aside from being apparently just football dumb or football inept, he's stiff. There's a reason he didn't do any of the 3-cone or change of direction drills.
He doesn't change direction well.
Because he can't turn. Like, I'm sorry, maybe Jacob really likes him, but the very idea that this guy is like some sort of unbelievable, like untapped potential athlete, when it's like everything else I see about it, I feel like I'm Billy Bean in Moneyball. If he's a good player, why doesn't he play football good?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's going to come down to the type of situation he lands in. If you're drafting Shamar Stewart with the anticipation of, all right, this guy's going to be our starter year one, you're out of your mind. I'm sorry. Like, this is a long-term pick. He's not ready to be a starter in the NFL right now. He has all the tools to be amazing physically. It's just going to be a matter now of, can he put it all together? I think it's the sort of thing where, like, he's the type of prospect, if he ends up somewhere like the Eagles with a deep defensive line rotation and a winning culture, then yeah, I think he's going to be freaking amazing. But the Eagles have the last pick in the first round because they literally won the Super Bowl. So that's not going to happen. And I think that just as a result of this being a weaker class, people see the testing numbers and be like, oh, wow, this is someone we need to use a top 10 pick on because he's an edge rusher and he's a freak athlete. Like, sure, but at the same time, the tape's not all the way there. The production certainly isn't. he's someone I have outside of the top 20 in my rankings, and I think I think he should go first round just because of how freakishly high his upside is. But I think he's the type of guy he needs to land in a setting that will allow him to improve without maintaining super high expectations right out of the gate. And I think that he's going to get drafted too early, and that's going to, rise the expectations of him to contribute right away. And if he doesn't contribute right away, then people are going to freak out about it. So, yeah, I mean, I could see the Bears really liking him, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be on board with the pick. And I know that this is the oh no, mock draft. And Mason, I think you did a fantastic job of that. Uh, yeah, that would be about my reaction, honestly.
Yeah, in some world where the Bears were traded down far enough where it's a late pick, and I don't. Yeah, never mind. I was gonna try to justify it. I can't. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, I'm up again. Round 2, pick 39. I took Jack Sawyer, edge out of Ohio State. 6'4", 260-pound player coming out as a fourth-year senior. Brian Poles said a couple weeks ago that you can never have enough edge rushers. So in this scenario, double dipping at edge here. He's a little short armed, 31 3/4 inch arms, and he's pretty dense frame. He's good against the run, and he does have some pass rush juice. Posted 4.5 sacks, 6 pass breakups, and I would say he plays kind of like George Karlaftis. He's got that competitive play personality. And some of his teammates would describe him as steely-eyed, focused, cold-blooded, things of that nature. The con, because this is the oh no draft, he's pretty one-dimensional for me as a pass rusher and just doesn't lack suddenness or the length of an edge player. He's got a set role and was really not used anywhere else. So 97.7% of his snaps were outside the tackle. So there's no positional flexibility there. Below average get off, missing functional speed to spill action wide and contain. Plays with a super wide base, limiting explosiveness. Will be out levered by long arm blockers. Lacks bend, stiff hip at the ankles. Did not do anything at the combine and only benched at his pro day. And I feel like that's because he's hiding from the speed and explosion tests, which I think the tape supports that. So I think could be a part of a rotation where he's your fourth pass rusher. And in this scenario, I mean, you need him to produce more. The ceiling's not there for me. There's other guys in this area that I'd be much more interested in for edge.
So can I just jump in because I have him in my draft too at my second round pick? Because I know this is your oh no, and I'm actually of the opinion that I don't think he'd be a bad outcome if you're getting him like specifically more in a trade back from one of your second round picks later in the second round. So because some of the things you listed are some of the things that I think Dennis Allen likes in his defensive ends. A lot of what Dennis Allen defensive ends do, even in a 40 front, is 5-teching. It's a lot of pocket pushing, stunting, things of that nature, where you're setting the edge or you're allowing somebody to come free around you. I think those are things he can do well because he is so powerfully built, and we saw how he can take over in the college football playoff run. Like he does have some of that in him. Do I think he's fantastic? No, but I think he's, for lack of a better word, safe. And I was talking to a couple of friends of mine who I bounced some of these draft ideas off of, and it felt so lazy, but he reminds me a lot of the guy from Cincinnati who just retired, who was also Ohio State grab, Sam Hubbard, where he's kind of like a boring pass rusher. It's very one note. It's all effort and motor and push, but it kind of fits. And I hate that it's the same school and it's a white guy, because it's like the two things that I hate and I try to avoid at all costs, but it's exactly who he reminded me of, because I felt the same way when Hubbard came out, that he's just kind of this one note, but he's effective at what he does. And there's sometimes it's just the guy, he's like an eat your vegetables pick. He's going to probably be solid. He's probably not going to be awful. Like, do I think he's the best outcome? No, I actually kind of like his teammate more as a
JT.
As like a JT Tui.
I'm not going to do the last name.
Yeah.
Tui.
But it's like, I think really any of the three Ohio State defensive linemen, Tyleek, JT, or Jack Sawyer, could be a reasonable outcome in the second round if you're looking for linemen that fit.
I think there's just a thing, like when you go to that group and like you said, like JT, like I prefer him like in that general area. Like Jordan Burke, I talked about previously. I prefer him if he was in this. I mean, even like a Princely would be more interesting. A Nick Scourton to an extent. I just think they're a Braden Swinson, who he's maybe more third round, but they're just other guys that I think have a more upside that aren't. I'm going to run after ball real hard and get ball. Like that's just like.
Oh, I'm not sitting here saying he's some sort of wonderful watch because he's not. He's very boring, but I know it's solid and it works.
It comforts me, damn it. All right, next. Is this the same person? No, it's not. Okay, round 2, pick 39. Josh Connerly Jr. Danny took him for his pick.
Okay, let me start by saying Josh Connerly Jr. is not going to make it to pick 39.
Oh,
this
God,
was
no.
just this is PFF doing me a solid because I took Tyler Warren and they're like, hey, here's your retribution from the PFF mock draft guide. The biggest thing that stands out to me with Connerly is he's clearly an ascending talent. It's palpable. Like you can see him get better if you just pick a game from the beginning of the year, a game from the middle of the year, and a game from the end of the year, which is how I evaluate these players. I pick one game from each segment of the year, and I see how they look. Are they the same? Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? Et cetera, et cetera. And his improvement is palpable. He's a good, fluid mover. I think he's great for probably a very zone-heavy team, which is, I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of outside zone, considering I believe the Lions were number 1 in outside zone percentage last year under Ben Johnson play calling. He, like I said, fluid mover. You can see it specifically when he tries to get lateral. He really is able to get and slide, move and slide and stuff. So I really like how his improvement and how he moves as an athlete. He is a little light in the ass. He does have trouble with power rushers at times. He needs to get stronger. And I feel like that's a case with a lot of these more finesse athletic tackles that they need to get stronger to deal with some of these big bullies in the NFL because Mason and you and I have talked about it at length on this show before. There are no weeks off in the NFL. Every pass rusher was a dude in college. Every guy has power and is able to push you around for a rep here or there. And the old adage is you could win 65 of the 68 snaps you're out there. If you lose those 3 and they become sacks or forced fumbles or something, you might have just lost your matchup for better or for worse. So
yeah, I mean, I really like Connerly. I mean, he's probably my 4th rated tackle in this class. Jacob, round 2, pick 39. Tyleek Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State, the man that took a tumble, unfortunately, down his pro day during his 40.
Yeah, I mean, so I look at Tyleek Williams and I see a pro-ready, high-floor defensive tackle. And again, I think he's someone who has a higher ceiling than a lot of people like to admit. I remember when I first started watching him, he was around 290, super quick off the ball. And he did a great job of, getting his weight up to around 330. And he's still a really good athlete for a defensive tackle, which is insane. Not the tallest, not the lengthiest type of defensive tackle out there, but he's stout. And a good part of that is he has a naturally low center of gravity. So I think he's got a strong anchor. He's good against the run. He's got enough juice as a pass rusher. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be like a double-digit sack guy, but someone who can be a good starter in the league. Ideally, that and Javon Dexter, that's your starting duo at defensive tackle for the next 10 years. I mean, obviously, we'll see. And for a defensive line, you're definitely, needing to rotate guys in. But I do think that defensive tackle is a need that not enough people are talking about. Just because, Andrew Billings and Grady Jarrett are both over 30 years old, and Zach Pickens hasn't shown anything to prove that he's a long-term contributor up to this point. So I don't think you should plan on him being one. I think it's better to be safe than sorry. And Williams, I think, is a guy I feel really good about, at least being a high-end contributor. And that's something I saw him at 39. I'm like, that's good value. 2 defensive linemen in a row to start the class is interesting. I know that's not an approach that a ton of people have taken with the Bears, but I thought the value lined up, so that's what I went with.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Jacob's back up again. Round 2, pick 41. Josh Connerly back up, offensive tackle out of Oregon.
Larry is so again. I don't think he's going to fall this far, and I know Danny covered it a lot. I think Connerly honestly kind of reminds me a good amount of Braxton Jones. Some Bears fans are going to be like, some Bears some Bears fans are going to be like, oh, sweet. Some Bears fans are going to be like, oh, crap. Depending on who you ask. I think that if you look at it, look, Braxton Jones is a league. I think he's an average starting left tackle, but those are so rare. I think that's a really good value if you can get that at 41. Not to say Connerly's ceiling is absolutely like set there, but I think a lot of the similar strengths, a lot of the similar weaknesses. Tremendous mover. I mean, I'm not gonna repeat what Danny said just for the sake of saying something new. I think we're all in agreement. He's a tremendous athlete. Do I think he's going to be here at 41? No. Do I think he's going to be at 39? No. But if he is, I'd absolutely take him.
Absolutely. I like I said, I really like him. I would be excited to get him. Just unfortunately, probably not right there. Danny traded traded pick 56. Or sorry, he received pick 56, 4th round pick, and a future 4th, giving away the current pick at 41. Cool. Moving on. My pick at pick 41, round 2, I took Cam Scadaboo. Bears Twitter's favorite running back, apparently. So Cam's not getting drafted here, by the way. At least he better not. I mean, in all reality, he's a 3rd, 4th round pick. But PFF's crazy ADP led to me literally having to draft him here because he was just getting snatched up. And if I waited any longer, I think the average draft position was 50. He really was the Arizona State offense. He finished 5th in 2024 Heisman voting. And then he set Arizona State's single season school records for rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and total touchdowns. I get why people like him. He will run through your soul. He can break through the second level tacklers and careen off bodies for extended yards. Effective catcher out of the backfield even. But the problem is he lacks top end speed and is playing bigger, faster, stronger defenders that he can't bully at the NFL level. Long-term durability is a concern. I mean, compare him to Genty. Genty eludes defenders, kind of wiggles, and that's why he breaks so many tackles. I mean, Cam breaks tackles because he runs people over, and that's just not sustainable for a long career. I also think he's pretty impatient, pressing at the line of scrimmage and too eager barreling into the contact. Not a good pass blocker. Basically, he tries to kill whoever he's trying to hit, and sometimes it's the highlight, and other times he just whiffs. Not good long speed and poor acceleration out of his cuts. Essentially, I just think that there are more talented running backs in this draft that you could and probably should get. I mean, even around this general area, you're going to be drafting him probably in the round 3, round 4. I know I took him in 2. I already explained why. But, I mean, give me Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens, Damian Martinez. Heck, if you want a manimal, go take Jarquez Hunter. He's gigantic. He's fun. I'd just rather have those guys, essentially, than Cam. Have someone else going to have White Thunder. Jacob, round 2, pick 45. One of my favorite players in this draft, if not my favorite, Quinshon Judkins, running back at Ohio State.
Yeah, so I think with Judkins, I mean, I like to compare him to, with Omarion Hampton here, just because they're both big, fast running backs. I don't think the gap between those two is as big as a lot of people make it out to be. I think Hampton's certainly stronger, and I think he gets better use out of his frame, but Judkins is still a tough SOB when he runs the football. And if anything, I think that Judkins has better play speed on tape. Again, I do have Hampton above Judkins, but generally, I think that I'd rather take Judkins here 45, but say even at 39 or 41, I'd rather have Judkins there than Hampton at 10. That's just me from a pure value perspective, and then you can get someone somewhere else at 10. But yeah, I think this is the type of guy where, he has the size that you're looking for to be the David Montgomery to DeAndre Swift's Jahmyr Gibbs, which Swift is not Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm just saying in terms of playing style, that's probably the closest you're going to get because Swift is decidedly not a downhill runner who's going to consistently find the right hole and regularly hit 4 or 5 yards up the middle like that. So, yeah, I went with Judkins here. I mean, I traded back and got an extra pick, so take that for what it's worth. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's good value. I'd be very
I don't
happy
think
with
he's gonna
Judkins
be
in the
there.
second round. You
I
don't think he's going to be there?
Judkins is no. I
Where do
think
you
there's
have
going
him?
to be a run at the very back end of the first or the top of the second on running backs.
There's a good chance of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you could
People
be
just being
right.
like, I got to get my flavor that I want before.
But
someone
and I
else.
also think I might be the lowest person in the world on Travion Henderson. He's hammer-headed DeAndre Swift. He has no idea where he's at any point in time. And I think that everyone who loves him for pass blocking reasons, which is a great reason to love him, but it doesn't make him a better running back.
I would also add in, I think people love him because they see like the big chunk highlight plays and just ignore the fact that, like you said, he just runs in the back of his guards way too
He's
often.
Ray Charles at running back. It's awesome.
This is a safe place. I like it. Okay. Danny's up. Round 2, pick 56. Jack Sawyer. Is there anything you want to add on?
No, we already covered. That's why I
Blockhead
jumped.
Jack.
I already.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Danny gets to go again. Doesn't matter. Round 3, pick 72. CJ West, one of my top 5 maybe favorite players in this draft.
CJ, I think, is a true nose tackle. I think he does well to move at the size he is, and I think Bears Twitter has a bit of a higher affinity for him than the rest of the draft world does because he is. I believe he's a local kid, isn't he?
Yeah, went to Nazareth.
Yeah, so he's a good football player. Here, let me just pull up my notes. I think the thing that's most impressive about him that stood out to me is when he's playing against like stretch or outside zone, he moves a lot better at that size than you would expect him to be. He is just a mammoth. He's big and he's powerful, but I think he's limited because of how it's similar to. I view him a little bit the way I viewed Tavondre Sweat last year, where I liked Tavondre a lot more than a lot of people did, but then he went super, super high. And I don't think he's the level of athlete that Tavondre was coming out. Tavondre is like absurd at his size. CJ's got a little bit to him, and I think but I think he's kind of relegated to what he is. And I don't know how high the ceiling is, but I know how high the floor should be. And I think he's just a problem in the run game. He offers more in the pass rush way than you would expect for a guy like him. But I think even this right here, 72 is probably the tippy top of where I feel comfortable taking him. I would feel more comfortable like 10 picks later with him being in the 80s. Like, I think the Bears fan base and Bears Twitter just likes him a lot more than a lot of the league does, maybe. And because we exist in Bears Twitter largely, what do you see?
Yeah. QC Twittery stuff. All right, Jacob, round 3, pick 72. I didn't pull the thing down far enough. Oopsie. That's why I need a producer, because I don't do all the right things. You took Kevin Winston Jr., safety out of Penn State.
Love.
Yeah. I mean, I think the case with Winston here is I think safety's going to be a really big need next year, to be frank. I think, Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, there's a good chance neither of them are on the team in 2026. Both their contracts expiring. Byard is good, but he's over 30. At best, you're signing him to another 1-2 year deal. Brisker, very talented, significantly younger as well, but at the same time, there's the concerns about injuries with him. So, and after too many concussions, it's like, is that really, first and foremost, what's his mentality going into all this? And does the team want to invest significant long-term money into a guy like that? So Winston, I think, fits that kind of Brisker-esque mold. I mean, again, they're both hard-hitting safeties from the same school, but Winston's, physical. He's got the build. He's got the size. He's got the tenacity. He takes good angles in pursuit. Good straight line speed. Maybe not the rangiest safety out there, but I think he's someone who's going to be a good, strong safety at the next level. Yeah, round 3. I really, looking back on it, I really wish that the Bears were able to get that that comp pick from Ian Cunningham, because I think that would be a perfect range in this class to take a safety. Luckily, since I did trade back, I had the ability to stock up on offensive, defensive line, running back, and then get a safety. But Winston's a guy I really like. Honestly, even if they don't trade back and get another second, third rounder, and they still take Winston in round 3, I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, safety is absolutely a. It used to be kind of a quiet thing, and now I think people are finally coming around and realizing, like, no, this you have to address this sooner rather than later. All right, round 3, pick 72 for me. I took Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. Now, this pains me because I do like Wilson as a player. It's more about positional flexibility and fit now. He's his athletic traits. He's got decent play strength, even at 310, 6'3", 310 pounds, 6'3". He shines blocking inside zone and has the feet to operate in small quarters to make backside cutoff, front side reaches. He had a 4.84 40 and a 1.72 10-yard split, which is great. Reminiscent of Rodney Hudson for me. Negatively, he is my second-ranked center behind Gray Zabel, which is good. I mean, the problem is a guy like Zabel's got 5 position flexibility, and Wilson is 1. He's a center. And so if you draft him, that's what you're playing him at. And don't get me wrong, he played some other positions at Georgia, but moved to center in 2022, and he was only a 1-year starter as well at 2024. So his inexperience does show. Some say they don't see the play strength hold up against a lot of NFL noses, which would be a problem. So at the end of the day, can you take a center-only guy when you sign Drew Dahlman? The specifics of the contract, obviously, for Dahlman matter, but I mean that's very, very specific to carry on your 53 at that point in time. So as much as I like Jared Wilson, the player, I just don't know that I'd be able to take him at this point. You need someone who can give you some center guard flexibility at least.
Yeah. No, and I'll say real quick, I'm 100% with you on Jared Wilson. I mean, great player, great athlete, great center. Bears don't need a center anymore. So I'm with you there. Not a great fit for the Bears, but I do think he'll be good somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm going to go again. Round 3, pick 80. Man, I suck at this today. Charles Grant was my pick. Tackle out of William and Mary. Another guy I like a lot. Love, actually, close to love. This is the situation. This one is probably the most flexible I am in terms of if it happened, like I wouldn't be like raging at this, but because I do love the player. 6'5", 311 pound, 5th-year senior, 34 3/4 inch arms, ran a 5.09 40-yard dash with a 1.8-yard split. The 40 time would have been 12th best at the combine amongst all O-linemen, 6th best amongst all offensive tackles. He was a 4-year starter, a lot of games under his belt, named a finalist for the 2024 Walter Payton Award, which recognizes the top offensive player in FCS. Light-footed, long arms, looks to flummox pass rushers with rhythm, feint, chops. Uncoils his hips really well. I would say my comp for him is Spencer Burford. But the problem is a couple things. One, fairly lean, and I don't think he really has the frame where he actually adds a lot of functional mass, so you don't want to slow him down. He's got a bit of a habit of hugging or holding when attempting to sustain some cutoff blocks. Only played left tackle, didn't get any snaps at guard, center, or right tackle, so you don't have that flexibility there. And one of the biggest things too, so there's a huge step up in competition. He kind of just went through this with Karan Namagaji. Now, it's not the same thing, don't get me wrong, but like, can you really have your left tackle plan be Braxton if his ankle pans out, Karan hopefully after a year in the league in an offseason, and then another guy who played low level? Like, the plan might be tough to sell.
Agreed.
All right, another quick break, and then we're going to dive right back in. Danny, round 4, pick 109, Jaden Blue.
So I don't think they're going to wait this long to address running back, to be perfectly honest. I think they'd be more likely to take a running back at 72 than wait till the 4th round as their first running back choice. Jaden Blue is like Jahmyr Gibbs if he were bought as the Walmart brand diet soda of him. Like, he's not even regular diet Coke if Jahmyr Gibbs is Coke. He's the Walmart brand Coke in diet form.
RC Cola?
I think he's, at this moment, almost exclusively a gadget or receiving back. He's unbelievably fast, and it shows on tape. Like, his speed is taking away angles. I actually think something a lot of people don't talk about that I noticed immediately was how flexible he is in his ankles and hips. He's really loose, and he's able to just kind of wiggle out of things. And I think he's going to be a mismatch nightmare coming out of the backfield on like option routes and wheel routes and things of that nature. And I honestly think the literal first game I watched of him, my thought was Ben Johnson's going to love this guy because he can just use him as just a football player and just get him the ball in space and screens and put him in the slot or put him out wide. It's just the fact that he exists out there with that kind of speed and ability to just take away running angles because of how fast he gets to top speed. I think that's the kind of player he's going to want. I really like Jaden Blue. Again, he's not the typical aesthetic of running back that I typically gravitate towards. But if I put myself in the situation of what I'm looking at and how I evaluate running backs for what this offense needs, I think Jaden Blue is damn near perfect. And I really enjoyed watching his tape. And it speaks to how the impression he made on me. He was the first running back tape I turned on this year when I started going through evals. So he made a pretty good impression. So what?
You just do alphabetical order?
No, it was literally like it was time to sit down, and actually Quentin Krishko was like, "Have you checked out Jaden Blue yet?" And I was like, "I haven't even started," and this was a couple months ago. And he's like, "Oh, well, I know you're trying to stick to primarily linebackers and running backs this year. Why don't you start here because I just finished him and we can cross-examine notes." I was like, "Hey, cool, why not?"
Nice. So Jacob is going to run through his last picks here because he does have to run. He's got big important things. He had Kobe King at pick 148. He had LaJonte Wester, wide receiver at 233, and then Marcus Ware, offensive guard at 240. So rapid fire, my good man.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think Kobe King, I think that's your Jack Sanborn replacement. Similar kind of skill set. I think Kobe, neither of them are necessarily elite athletes, but Kobe is probably, for my money, one of the best linebackers in this class in terms of taking blocks head on, stacking and shedding blocks, and making tackles against the run in the box. Physical, plays his ass off. He's smart, good tackler. Kind of limited athletic ceiling, at least from what I've seen from him on tape. But he's someone that I really like. I'd love him in round 5, specifically with the Bears kind of needing, they have that hole now for a linebacker 3. LaJonte Wester, I think, is just a fun kind of speed gadget type of receiver. I know you already have those, and you brought in Olamide Zaccheaus. I know you brought in Devin Duvernay as well. Can never have enough speed. And I think Wester's the type of guy, yeah, he's small, he's not super physical, but he's electric with the ball in his hands. He can stretch the field vertically, he can create separation. I like him in the slot at the next level. So he's someone I just think could be a fun sort of gadget guy, which in round 7, I'll take that. I think he's got some returner upside as well, if placed in that role in the pros. And then Marcus Ware, the Montana State offensive lineman, has got some guard tackle versatility. I think he's a guard at the next level, but his ability to play tackle and having been like an FCS All-American level type of guy at tackle is encouraging in round 7. Another really athletic offensive lineman, kind of I don't know if he has the play strength right now to be a major contributor necessarily, which is why, again, I'm taking him day 3. But he moves really well. He's coordinated, blocking on the move, down blocker, reach blocker, whatever the case might be. He's coordinated. He's fluid, keeps a low center of gravity, so he's someone that I like a lot.
All right, Jacob, thank you so much for your time. I know we were running a little long, and you got to get out of here and do, like I said, big things, but appreciate you anytime you can pop on, man.
I mean, I appreciate you guys having me and being flexible here. Sorry, I got to, hop out a little bit early, but I appreciate you guys having me. And yeah, let's hope our mock drafts are let's hope that Ryan Pohl, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm bad at these. I'm just gonna say something that's like, oh, let's hope the real draft's better than our, as good as our mock drafts or whatever. But I don't know. I'm awkward and it's too late. So now I'm gonna leave so I don't have to face the consequences of my own actions. Goodbye.
And with that,
he's Jacob.
Gone. Beautiful. Love it. All right. I'm back up. Round 5, pick 148. Hey, look, you can see Charles Grant's name, the name that wasn't there because I designed the thing wrong. Cool. But I took Ben. Yeah, that kind of. It's been a rough week. I took Benjamin Urasek, tight end out of Georgia. I do like the idea of a tight end in this draft. Just, I mean, you look at some of these options, and there's some really tantalizing ones. I just don't think Ben's the one. 6'4", 245-pound, fifth-year senior. A lot of the guys I have on this list are like fifth-year seniors, stuff like that too. Just the age thing. He's gonna be 23. So, like, I think that's just an issue.
I think that's just the nature of this class. I think we're coming to the end of like those COVID,
like the COVID
kids who are
stuff,
finally,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
So that's just part of the class for sure. Maybe I just have to swallow it a bit, but like I don't love it. He started at Stanford. He's a fairly productive pass catcher, actually. Missed half the 2023 season with a shoulder injury and then transferred to Georgia. Tried to fill Brock Bowers' shoes. Was used more as a blocker, though, than his productive Stanford time. He only had 20 targets in 14 games. He's a very willing blocker with a good short area movement. But on the negative side, he just lacks strength at his base so often. He's winning more with willpower. He's an unorthodox mover. He's very awkward, which leads to wasted movement. That also worries me about long-term health. Like I always said about Adam Shaheen, that he was a very awkward faller, an awkward mover, and lo and behold, he just kept getting hurt with the Bears. Benjamin just doesn't have separation quickness. He'll have to make his hay as a blocker, which he can do, but I just think that there's really not as much upside as you want. I mean, he ran a 4.64 his pro day, which would have been second best to combine. But then you have guys like, Warren, Loveland, Arroyo all didn't run. So, we'll see what that looks like. Plus, pro day 40s are always faster. And I don't see a 4.64 on film. When he plays, he doesn't play to that speed. I just think if you're swinging on a pass catching tight end, which in theory you're thinking he would be, you should do so earlier in the draft with a guy that's got a higher ceiling. And if you want more of a blocker, you should do so with a guy like Mitchell Evans, Jackson Hawes, just someone that you're more confident in just out playing that role.
Yeah, agreed.
Danny, it came through weird. So anyway, you traded, you gave away round 5, pick 148, as well as a 7th round pick, 240, and a future 6, in order to receive a 5th round pick at 162 and also a 6th round pick at 186. With that 5th round pick at 162, you took Jalen Lane, the wide receiver out of Virginia Tech.
So he is a vertical slot. Very good build-up speed. Kind of the same, like a lot of the same traits that I was listing for Jaden Blue as a running back are similar for what Jalen Lane offers as a wide receiver. Good build-up speed. He takes away angles. He lots of ability in the screen game, and just to basically make them respect you in the seam to come like, hey, he's here. You have to pay attention to him. I think he's. Here, let me see. I think he's like just tiny, like, and that's why he's falling. And when you have build-up speed, what does that mean, Mason? It means you're not necessarily quick in short area.
Yeah.
So I think he's
5'10".
Yeah, he's 5'10" and 100. And, yeah, he's not like a big guy, and he wasn't all that productive. Like he does offer some return ability. I know that.
He averaged 10.8 yards per return.
Yeah. So the thing that I liked most about him when I watched him is for being a diminutive vertical slot, he runs hard. He doesn't die easy, so to speak. His legs don't go dead on contact. He's not just falling down like famously Cole Beasley said, "Why do I fall down? Like, have you gotten hit by these guys? It hurts." I appreciate the self-awareness, and Cole had a pretty damn good career, all things considered. But I don't like that in my football players. You are a football player. Sometimes you have to inflict some punishment back on the defender. But I liked Jalen Lane, and I thought the value was good. I don't necessarily think he's going to be here this late. Like, I think the speed and the return ability might push him up, especially given what we know about the return rules changing again this offseason, right? So
more of like a 4th round guy, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw the value, and I just was like, I think I need to figure out a way to get up there.
Fun fact from The Beast by Dane Brugler, which, by the way, if you don't have an athletic subscription, you should get one just for this. Also, apparently, you might be able to buy The Beast like at some bookstores in Chicago. Like, I heard that. Anyway, he as in Jalen Lane, had 2 muffed punts in 2024. So if you want the Velus Jones experience, you can take him.
Fantastic.
That was the one thing I just saw when I was reading it. I was like, that's funny. Danny, you're up again. Round 6, pick 186. Ollie Gordon II, Oklahoma State running back.
So Ollie is a running back after my aesthetic. So last year, Mason, I remember saying there was not a lot of running backs that were big and physical.
Yes.
And I just was like, why are there all these like little pass catching backs that can't run somebody over? This year feels like it's the opposite, where I've got all these guys where it's like I put the tape on and I'm like, oh my God, it's another one who just wants to bury you. Ollie Gordon is an old school workhorse, like stiff-hipped, big, strong. I'm gonna run through your linebacker running back. The thing that I noticed he's not overly fast. Like I think he's fast enough to be a bell cow type running back where he can shoulder the load and take the punishment. Like my idea behind this was, this is like your another diet version of what was happening in Detroit. This is your Montgomery, which is without like the flexibility that make you miss that Montgomery has. Like Gordon, I really enjoyed, and people forget he was talked about like in the same breath as like Ollie Gordon and Hampton coming into this season from how good he was in 24 or 23 rather. Like he was a legitimately like well thought of prospect, but he's big, powerful, like runs with good pad level, runs behind his pads. And for those who don't know what it means, when you run behind your pads, it means you're setting yourself up and you're physically preparing yourself to either absorb the contact or push back on the contact. So I really liked him. I had to go back and watch like some of his tape from last season versus this season because it's a night and day player. It's not the same guy.
He had 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns last year compared to 880 and 13.
If there's a super we always love to give prospects a quote unquote superpower. That's his superpower. He gets in the end zone. He knows how to score touchdowns. But he's very no nonsense. There's not a lot of wiggle. Very tight hips. He runs a little bit angularly. He's a little bit high because he's a bigger back. And truth be told, again, another player I don't think he's going to last this long because I think he's going to carry some of his past pedigree coming into this season with him. And some team in like the 4th or 5th round, it's going to be like, this dude is just falling too far. He's got too much production. He's been too good. And like I said, he does have his issues. He is stiff. He doesn't have a ton of wiggle to his game. He doesn't have this plethora of moves he can put on you. He's not running away from you. But what he is he's solid, old school, get between the tackles, get what's given to you kind of running back. And maybe it's just because I am 30, coming up on 35 years old now, and these are the kind of running backs like I remember coming up with, and everybody had to have these big physical, iron horse running backs who could just take carry after carry after carry. But he plays to my aesthetic. Now, do I think he's fantastic? No. But I think he could be a solid guy that could be like what you wanted Roschon to be almost. Just this guy that can take carry after carry after carry.
No, I'm all about it. All right, I'm up now. Round 7, pick 233. I took Joshua Gray here in my mock draft. Guard out of Oregon State, but potentially a center in the NFL. I'm going to be honest. I feel like half of Bears fans like Gray because he falls exactly with the Bears pick in the 7th consistently. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. I'll take him. Because I'm just surprised how often I see his name, not just like in mocks, but like talked about like, oh, they should go get him. But like, I don't see it. 6'5", 299 pounds, 7th year senior, 25 years old, by the way. He was a captain for 5 years. In 2024, he started all 12 games at left guard. He's actually the record holder for career starts, but that's easy when you play for, almost a decade. At Oregon State, he actually was a former left tackle. He returned partially to show NFL teams that he could move inside and play at a high level with mixed results, if we're being honest. He might project best as a center, like I said, and he can generate movement during the sustained phase of the block and fits into pretty much all run schemes, lands his hands inside. He's a high-level processor, really smart dude, which, again, is easy when you've been in school for 7 years. The negative, if you didn't guess, I mean, he's old. I get it. Like offensive linemen don't exactly have like short shelf lives. I mean, look at Joe Tooney. He's still playing at a high level and he's on the older side. Also, he can get a bit grabby. He allows his feet to get too heavy, mediocre to bad length. You'd expect him to be longer. Concerns whether or not he'll be able to anchor at depth and hold up against NFL power. There really aren't bad picks in the 7th round. Most of the upside picks are gone. Like I said, I'm worried about tread on the tires. He had 4,000 snaps at left tackle alone before he transitioned to guard. With how this mock has gone so far, like I would rather at this pick, if the Bears invest in linebacker like Jacob did, defensive line. If you notice, I haven't taken a single interior lineman, and that's one of the strengths of this class, or even a wide receiver, like Danny did. It's just there's other positions I think that would be better off than this particular individual.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't say it, he's old. Round 7, pick 233. Danny took Malachi Moore, safety, Alabama.
Jack of all, master of none. A little bit undersized. He can play. He's kind of an interchangeable safety. He can play boundary. He can play box. Like he can do a little bit of both. He's a willing, if not capable, edge defender. He reads routes well. Like there's a lot of stuff. Like when you watch him, he's a solid football player. Like I said, Jack of all, master of none. There's no trait you see with him, and you're like, that's an amazing trait. He just does a little bit of everything, which I think is what you kind of want in a third safety. And he doesn't bring added special teams value. And he was a 2-time team captain, and he's got like all the great things you would want in a late round pick. Who you're like, this guy should come in and contribute. And I really liked him this late because of all those things. Where I don't think you're gonna have him costing you a lot if he has to play, because he is just solid. And so Mason, you would be jack of all, master of none is also almost a detriment, right? It's like,
yeah, you need to have a something about you that you're just elite at, or near, or at least up heading that way.
And he doesn't have that. Like he's gonna battle size concerns. He's probably gonna battle injury issues. He can set an edge. He'll engage a blocker. He'll try to take down running backs. He can read a zone. He can do all these things, but not well enough. Like I don't think he can ever start for you regularly because he's just those limitations are eventually going to get exposed. But as a third or fourth safety and core special teamer, I think he's a perfect fit, especially because of the mental wiring. If you're a 2-time captain for Alabama, that says something, at least in my opinion, in terms of the guy. So
like
that's
I was gonna say, like Jacob said earlier, he wishing that the Bears could have gotten that comp pick if Ian Cunningham had gotten a GM job, or even if you could somehow trade back and get another pick in round 3 or something of that nature. Safety, I think, is a perfect example of that for this exact reason, because you draft Malachi Moore, it's almost like you have a Malachi Moore at home, right? Like you have on the Bears roster, you have Hicks, you have you have guys that are fine, but you don't necessarily want them starting for you extensive games. Maybe he'll prove us wrong, but at this point in time, I don't want Malachi Moore starting for me that much. Kevin Winston out of Penn State, Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma, Andrew McCool out of Texas.
Bowman is awesome.
Those are guys I'd like, but they're going to be 3rd, 4th round picks.
So for those who don't, I got to say, Billy Bowman is like, for everything I hated about Eddie Jackson, he reminds me a little of Eddie Jackson. He's a little bit contact adverse. He doesn't want to come up and hit. He's a little small, but his ball hawking instincts are great. And I heard it on the Todd McShay show where this kid like walks around campus with play tendencies of his opponent that week. He is like that dialed. This kid is awesome. And he's a good football player. He's just kind of one note in that unless he's playing coverage and trying to be a absolute just like havoc wreaker in the secondary, he doesn't offer much else. Yeah. Which if you believe in Jaquan Brisker and maybe him being able to stay healthy, he'd be a good pairing, especially with him being able to learn behind the pair of safeties they have currently. But I'm sorry, you said Billy Bowman, and it's just this guy's awesome. Like he's limited and he's flawed, but he's awesome.
So my All right, so Jacob had that pick, round 7, pick 233. Here he ran through that. He took Wester, the wide receiver out of Colorado. I took round 7, pick 240 for my final pick, Shiloh Sanders, the safety out of Colorado. It's simple. He's not an NFL player. He played 6 seasons of college football, like South Carolina, Jackson State, and Colorado, 2 of those, right, with his dad. Pro, he does play physical, which is good, and he's got a lot of experience. He IDs routes concepts pretty well. He just isn't a good athlete. He's stiff and jerky in his movements. He lacks fluidity. Top end speed is poor on film. He ran a 4.52 at his pro day. I think that's a fast track. I don't know about all that, but plays out of control, missing tackles, and he has an injury history. He had a broken arm, past ACL tear, along with recent shoulder injury that sidelined him for 6 months. Raises concerns about durability. He really should be an undrafted free agent at best, not a priority one, and he may get drafted due to his name. I mean, Dave Brugler had him as his 43rd safety. So, I want nothing to do with that.
Names go far. Nepotism is real.
And then, of course, Jacob rounded out our draft with Marcus Ware, pick guard out of Montana State, which at pick 240, which I think actually you took him too in a previous draft.
I took him in my first one, yeah.
All right, well, that's what we got. I'll run through these really quick for those playing at home. Danny first took Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. Josh Carnley Jr., tackle out of Oregon. Jack Sawyer, Ohio State edge. CJ West, defensive interior out of Indiana. Jaden Blue, running back out of Texas. Jalen Lane, wide receiver out of Virginia Tech. Ollie Gordon, the second running back out of Oklahoma State. And then ended with Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama. Jacob, Michael Williams, edge out of Georgia. Tyleek Williams, defensive tackle, Ohio State. Josh Carnley makes another appearance, offensive tackle out of Oregon. Quinshon Junkins, running back out of Ohio State. Kevin Winston, junior, safety out of Penn State. Kobe King, another Penn Stater, linebacker. LaJohntay Wester, wide receiver, Colorado. And then Marcus Ware, guard out of Montana. And then lastly for me, in my oh no, please don't draft, Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M edge. Jack Sawyer, edge, Ohio State. Cam Skadbu, running back, Arizona State. Jared Wilson, center from Georgia. Charles Grant, William and Mary, tackle. Benjamin Urosek, Georgia, tight end. Joshua Gray, Oregon State guard. And then lastly, Shiloh Sanders, safety out of Colorado. All right. That's it. Any parting thoughts, Danny, before we get out of here?
No, I mean, remember, it's always my little disclaimer. We were doing this to introduce prospects to you. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. I admittedly have not gone as in depth this year with all the positions as I usually do. I chose to focus primarily on linebackers and running backs. I will be releasing my rankings. I watched close to 30 running backs, and I watched at least 15 to 20 linebackers. And the linebackers make me sad and it's probably why I love Kobe King so much, because he's a throwback and something I can hearken to. So every linebacker now is a slip and chase linebacker. No one can stack and shed anymore. And that's why Kobe King was I turned him on. I was like, this is awesome. This is a guy that can actually bow his neck, stack someone up, get off, and finish the hit. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'll be releasing those rankings with round grades on just a list form. I'm not going to release a thread on all of them. If someone really wants a thread on somebody, I can throw it together. I got plenty of film cut ups in my phone and my laptop. But just we're doing this. It's an act. It's a fruitless act, but we enjoy it, and we're trying to give you guys just some players to look into, see who you might like, who you don't like. Because as you get into the draft process, especially when you've been doing it as long as I have, since 2015, 14, you develop types. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, and it's an ever-evolving process. And we're just trying to help you guys out, and we want to give you some intuition maybe, and you can learn on your own. And we're happy to have draft analysis and studying is art, not science. There's benchmarks and there's thresholds for a reason, but so much of it is just abstract art. What do you see that I don't see, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and it's one of those things this is only I think the fourth mock that we're doing. We got the one next week. It'll be different since we're just running through more of the actual ones. But I mean, there's tons of prospects we haven't even talked about. Let's just talk about first round options, right? I mean, no one's talked about Derek Harmon as an option, and even though I think he absolutely is, no one's talked about, probably because he's not. But Mike Green hasn't been brought up, even though he's a fantastic edge. But there's fit issues and other things, but might not have them there. Right. I mean, there's no conversations been had about Michael Williams was finally brought up today. You can just kind of go through a list of Kenneth Grant is someone that could even go earlier. So there's all these other players, and we're just talking about first round that we didn't get to. Tons more, and obviously all the other rounds. We're just trying to give you a taste of types that might fit, players that we find interesting, things of that nature. All right, that's all we got. Like I said, tune in next week. We are going to do our live draft war room. That one we're going to try to do the same thing as last year, where you can actually play along. You'll be able to. I'll put up a list of options, whether it's a trade, whether it's a prospect, and you get to vote, and so you get to be a scout in the room and play along with us, as long as I can make sure that I get it running. So if it doesn't happen, I apologize, but that is the goal. So that'll be next Thursday, 5:30. We'll have a special guest on as well. So it'll be me, Danny, Kyrie, the guests, all running through at least one, potentially even two mocks that day, whatever we can get through in about an hour 15. All right, everyone, bear the hell down.
The purpose of this mock draft is to help the hosts of Bare Bones better know the prospects of the 2024 NFL Draft. They are sharing this information so you, the follower, don't have to grind tape and scouting reports as you wait patiently for the Chicago Bears to make their selection. This is not meant to be predictive. If your favorite prospect was not selected in this mock draft, check out a previous or future mock, as they may be included there. If they are never selected, oh well, get over it. Taking these mocks too seriously will result in headache, nausea, diarrhea of the mouth, cold takes exposed, troll status, tool status, and undying love for a prospect who gets cut before week 1.